Hello, Bob, and thank you once again for joining us. Let's start, shall we, with the major currency pairs. The week ahead coincides with the start of the new month. Big releases coming up. What can you tell us?
It's a busy week ahead on the economic data front. Key stats from the US, consumer confidence figures on Tuesday, ADP non-farm employment figures on Wednesday. Focus will then shift to initial jobless claims figures and ISM manufacturing numbers on Thursday before labour market numbers on Friday. That's non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate, key areas of focus. For the euro, particularly busy week, we got French consumer spending and German unemployment numbers coming in ahead of manufacturing PMIs for Italy and Spain, and finalised numbers for France, Germany and the Eurozone. But Italy and the Eurozone's numbers to be the key areas of focus. Then we've got German retail sales figures for the markets to also consider in a shortened week. For the pound, relatively quiet week, finalised fourth quarter GDP numbers in the early part of the week and finalised manufacturing PMI numbers on Thursday. Any material revisions will have an influence on the pound.
So a lot of stats to look out for on the major currency pairs. Let's switch our attention to commodities. Can we expect the same busy week ahead for the commodities?
For the commodity currencies, relatively busy week. For the loonie, we've got January GDP numbers and February RMPI numbers. Those will be the key areas of focus. Obviously, we've got direction coming from crude oil and market risk sentiment as well that will likely ultimately drive the loonie through the week. For the Aussie dollar, we've got private sector credit figures and then retail sales and trade numbers to provide the Aussie dollar with direction. And then finally, for the Kiwi dollar, we got business sentiment figures to also provide the Kiwi dollar with direction in the week. Ultimately, however, expect market risk sentiment, and then we've got private sector PMI numbers out of China to also influence the commodity currencies in the week ahead.
So Canadian GDP is the one to look out for, which did cause a big movement in the price of the Canadian dollar. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Let's shift our attention to our Asian giants, Japan and China. What can we expect from them in the week ahead?
For the Japanese yen, relatively busy week on the economic data front. We've got retail sales and industrial production figures, and then wrapping things up at the end of the week on Thursday, first quarter Tankan survey numbers. Market's going to be looking for a pickup in these indexes to support a more optimistic outlook. For the Chinese yuan, we've got private sector PMIs. The MBS numbers kick things off for manufacturing, services and the composite, followed by the Caixin survey numbers for the manufacturing sector on Thursday. Expect that to be the key driver. The markets are particularly interested in China's manufacturing sector. Obviously, we've seen impressive numbers out of China of late. So after Germany and the Eurozone's numbers in the week last week, we're going to be expecting a marked pickup in the PMI from China.
And lastly, geopolitical risk. Tensions between the US and China over the trade agreement. We have tensions also between the EU and Britain, and a third wave of the pandemic. How will the markets react?
Finally, on the geopolitical risk front, well, we've got to continue monitoring chatter between the US and China on trade and foreign policy. Obviously, that's going to be a key area of focus for the markets. Then obviously we've got the Middle East and the Iran nuclear agreement, and simmering under the surface, we've got tensions between the EU and Britain over the AstraZeneca vaccine, and obviously the EU's third wave of pandemic, raising tensions further, amidst vaccine shortages. So these are the areas to focus on. In particular, I'd be monitoring obviously US and China.
Well, that's all we have time for today, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you again next time. That was the week ahead with Bob Mason of FX Empire. In the meantime, keep up to date with all the latest developments by following us on all our social media outlets.